Welcome back to Stepwise, a series of deep conversations with inspiring leaders about who they are, how they see the world, and their journeys that have influenced their worldviews and values. Today's guest is Anthony Stephan, the Chief Learning Officer for Deloitte U.S., and someone I've known for quite a few years now, having worked with Anthony and his twin brother Michael in their various senior roles at Deloitte. Anthony's got a cool and, in my opinion, daunting job at Deloitte, as he leads a talented team to help the firm stay ahead of the changing marketplace by advancing the skills of its people and accelerating the agility and innovations of their strategy and experiences. Anthony is a self-proclaimed passionate learner and supporter of leader development, someone whose thoughts on the topic have been featured in the Wall Street Journal, Forbes, and Business Chief. In today's session, several things stand out to me. First, his take on the generational differences in how people learn. Second, Deloitte's Technology Academy researched, designed, and delivered in 120 days to help the firm's talent stay abreast of what they called hot skills. Third, how Deloitte used technology and tools to survey 25,000 of their people in the development of programming. Fourth, the importance of language and how values played and continue to play a part in running a healthy, progressive, and sustainable firm. I hope you enjoy meeting and hearing from Anthony Stephan.
I think if we drew a Venn diagram of the things that are really meaningful to the two of us, there is a tremendous amount of overlap. I think about very consistent values, the things that are important to us, but I think growth sits at the heart of that. So super excited for the conversation.
Anthony, there are many things affecting today's workforce. When you think about your workforce, what are the most important factors that are influencing the team members at Deloitte, and how is Deloitte experiencing the impacts of some of those things?
Our greatest asset is our people, and our consistent commitment to investing in the growth and development of our people is absolutely critical to our ability to serve our clients with the greatest distinction. So there's a few things I would say that jump out. Number one is the upskilling of our people in the direction of a very dynamic market remains a constant priority. So this shows itself in the pace of change in tech and the ability to upgrade and upskill people at scale at an accelerated pace. So for example, we made an unbelievable investment a couple of years ago to launch our Deloitte Technology Academy. And this again was focused on the acceleration of skills in the area of hot skills at scale. And so we have to be able to do that in weeks, not months and years, in the dynamic nature of the market. It was pretty unbelievable. My first real effort in the learning space at the firm was in 2022. I was asked to join a number of members of our executive committee to look at the future of leadership. And we went on a 120-day sprint, and we talked to all of our professionals to really get to the heart of what the future of leadership was. And there's a couple of things that stood out. Number one, we learned that we are extraordinary at investing in the development of business skills to perform jobs, right? Almost at a level that is unmatched relative to our peers. And there was a very consistent drumbeat from our professionals that they look to the firm to continue to develop human skills. So we left this 120 days and we recognized that the strategy for the future was a yes and strategy. Yes, we need to continue to invest in the development of business skills to perform jobs. And yes, we need to double down on the development of human skills to allow our people to reach their full potential. This yes and strategy became the construct for how we invest in the growth and development of our people. It shows itself in our Deloitte Technology Academy, which is the acceleration of hot skills at scale, and the launch of our Deloitte Leadership and Human Potential offerings, which is really leaning into a set of human skills that help our people grow to be better at work, better at home, and better in society.
That's really amazing and lovely to hear. I'm thrilled. Could not be more thrilled about that. One of the questions I was just curious about for you is, what is the role of awareness, self-awareness, awareness of others, or consciousness on the part of the firm and its leaders in dealing with all of these crazy changes where people are now bringing more of their humanity into the workplace?
Yeah, Foster, I got two things that came to my mind. I'm smiling from ear to ear because I cannot believe the language you're using. One of the most fascinating insights that came out of our 120-day sprint, we poured through talent survey data. We used specific tools to reach 25,000 people for smaller surveys. We used all of these tools. And what I learned, Foster, is that the language people are using around human skills is evolving. So, look, you and I could look back over the last decade, and the idea of empathy and curiosity being embedded into businesses, we're seeing an enormous rise. Foster, the language our people were using when we did this sprint, attention, awareness, acceptance. I called it the A's. It was this growth of all of this new language that people were using to describe the human skills that they were in most search of. And so we started to move our experiences and our learnings in the direction of attention and acceptance and awareness. It's not that empathy and curiosity and compassion aren't embedded into the experiences we create, but we had to acknowledge that there was this evolution. But this is the language that our people are now using. So how do we move in that direction?
How has the firm's culture evolved in the past number of years, especially in your time as chief learning officer, to be more inclusive, to be more whole, to be more well, to be more participative than it typically has been? And Deloitte's always been an exemplar in being a very well-run firm. And I'm guessing you've seen some pretty dramatic culture shifts recently.
You know, one of the things that I am most proud of in the firm is the consistency of our values. When you look at what we have been experiencing, which is a heightened, much more visible, much more difficult level of situations that we're dealing with, the importance for our values to be at the forefront of every conversation, clearly understood. You know, you used the word earlier around agency. Okay. I kind of look at this and say, we've got to embrace agency. We got to find ways to harness that agency. And one of the ways that we can do that is being clear on our values. If we're clear on our values, what we do is we empower the agency of others to live within those values. And oh, by the way, call us out as leaders and as a firm when people believe we are not executing on those values. And look, values lead to really difficult conversations. It's a really, really big word. It has a lot of positive connotation, but it leads to difficult conversation. You know, Foster, I remember you and I had a conversation a couple years ago. I called you seeking out advice with great admiration. I'm like, you know what you do for a living, I think that's what I want to do at some point in my life. I actually went back and got my International Coaching Federation fully certified ICF executive coaching certification. And in the first week of taking that course, the leader leading that course introduced this concept of not knowing. It was a complete unraveling. Here I am, 28 years in the consulting business, and the only thing I've ever had to live into is being competent, is having the capability and using that competency and capability to deliver. And this idea of not knowing was a complete unraveling. And as I look to where we are, whether it's in the firm, as individuals, or as a society, this idea of not knowing, this idea of leaning into things with curiosity to learn more, this is a construct that I brought to everything that I bring to, whether it's what we're developing next, whether it's how I engage with people. And I would tell you that this idea of not knowing, embracing the uncertainty, is probably the most elite skill that we as humans need to develop, given the pace of change and the level of difficulty that we're dealing with.
Yeah, the reality is that people didn't join the firm to be able to practice unknowing or not knowing or that level of curiosity. They joined the firm because people hire us as experts in a particular domain.
That's right.
You know, one of the premises of this effort originally was around authenticity in this troubled time, because people with greater agency are expecting their leaders to be more real, to give them opportunities to connect to their purpose. And I think that's still really important. But tell me a story about somebody in the firm who's doing a great job leading authentically and who is comfortable enough to be able to embrace the not knowing piece so that they can talk with and partner with their team.
This is going to feel really awkward. I am most proud of how I do that. Look, I had the privilege of being part of a leadership experience a decade ago. And it was in that moment that I realized that my life's purpose is to engage with people in ways that change the trajectory of their lives. And those relationships and those connections will always be greater than any result we can achieve, because the relationships are what ultimately lead to the results. And from my standpoint, Foster, the reason I picked me is not to put myself up on a pedestal, but to take a moment and to share with you how difficult it is to do that on a daily basis. To be able to walk into a room with something that's really complex and tell the team, I have no idea how we're going to get there. I have no idea what it's going to take. I don't even know if we have the right people with the right skills to get that direction. But here's the situation in front of us. And the ability to be able to articulate that and demonstrate to others that I may not be the expert in that specific moment. The other thing I would tell you is I've realized over time that how important it is as a leader to demonstrate the humanity of what we do. Look, Forrester, I'm 50 years old with a 4-year-old. I sit in rooms with a lot of people that are beyond the empty nesting at this point. Their kids are married with kids. And I'm a dad who values my family, and I'm going to wrestle with helping my kids get to and from school, the 4-year-old and everything. And I make that really known to others. And there are situations where people think I'm making choices with my family over really important things with the job. But I believe that bravery, that courage to be able to put these things on the table is what the next generation of our colleagues is looking for. So for me, this idea of living our truth, this idea of being brave with what we model in our words, and this idea of not knowing and admitting the not knowing, these are all what I'll call like part of a character revolution that we need to bring to the forefront of what it means to lead.
I could not agree more. I'm thrilled. So you've got multi-generations in the workforce, including anywhere from 62 all the way down to, new entrants. And how do you, again, move this big organization that is so highly performing to new cultural norms while you're still trying to perform every day?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's going to sound so basic, but it starts with listening. How do you listen to 173,000 people? Well, you take advantage of the fact that tech is advancing at a level that allows you to listen to 170,000 people. So one of the things coming out of the 120-day sprint that we initiated in 2022, we turned on what we call always on sensing. We want to hear what it is that our people are experiencing, what they're feeling, the direction that they expect the firm to be moving. And as a result of this always on sensing, there's a couple of things that we picked up on, Foster. So number one, we looked at the different ways that people learn. And 85% of our people, from our leaders all the way down to our analysts, 85% of those people still prefer in-person and on-the-job training. But when you go to the youngest generation of our colleagues, our analysts through our managers, their preference is also 30 to 40% higher than everybody else in the other ways of learning. Third-party platforms, social media, other types of omni-channel approaches. So as we look at this, the future is omni-channel learning. This requires us to be listening, to be investing, but that understanding doesn't happen if we don't create the space to listen.
I assume then that your team is also comprised of some multi-generations so that people can talk to the new entrance managers, senior managers, that sort of thing.
So we have an innovation team that is not only diverse in gender or race or faith, we have a team that's more importantly diverse in experience. And we bring all of these experiences together to solve the problems of the future. For me, like that's the foundational component of how we innovate towards the direction of the expectations of our people.
It's like a real-time design lab.
Yeah.
I would assume also then that you've had to think about, if not adapt, metrics to be able to measure the kind of the movement of culture, the movement of the workforce, the effectiveness of what it is you're doing. And I ask this because in my 25 years experience with the firm, there has been one metric that really mattered, which is, unit value. What shifts have you seen there? And what are you guys thinking about in terms of measurement?
Because I had led our Deloitte digital business, because our technology partners are so critical to our success, I became really familiar that every one of those organizations had a customer success organization. They wake up every day focused on the success of their customer. We ripped a page out of that playbook and we stood up a business success capability in learning for the first time. And I've shared this with a number of our peers in the marketplace, and it's truly differentiating. It's got three core components to it. Number one, performance-based metrics. Number two, experience-based metrics. And number three, we must deliver a business value when we spend capital to grow our people. So this idea of having three dimensions of metrics, performance being, look, how effective is this specific learning? How many people are we getting through it within what time? Experience is really, how did our people experience this training? Do they feel like they grew? Would they recommend it to others? Do they feel equipped to go take this learning and apply it? And then the business value is, if the performance and the experience achieved what we expected it to achieve, what is the material impact on the business? Do we see our ability to, create market truly growing as a result of these experiences? And this is a big shift for us to be able to combine what our people experience with the ability to create market and then get 500 plus stakeholders aligned on this idea that both need to be true. It's a journey, but the fact that the learning organization has raised its hand and said, there's a lot of people that could jump to the front line for this, but we want to lead from the front. That to me is what I'm most proud of.
Give me some examples of some maybe even course titles of things that are being offered to partners and below today that might not have been on the docket 5 years ago.
In terms of the Deloitte and leadership human potential work, we just launched our adaptive and compassionate leader, right? So there's a lot of different programs. We have our relationship mastery series, which is really well known. It's deeply rooted in our business chemistry, which is also widely known in the market. And we had our art of empathy and art of inquiry, and we had all of these specific opportunities. But what we are realizing is this idea of uncertainty, this idea of authenticity, this idea of compassion. So we are taking and creating experiences that focus on the adaptive nature of who we are and how we lead, and really leaning into what does it mean to do that with compassion.
In an organization the size and scope of Deloitte, that's game changing. That is community changing. That's family changing. It's huge, huge impacts beyond just client service.
We are absolutely passionate about playing a role in helping our people achieve their full potential. Our CEO, Jason Grisadas, has embedded this into every thread of communication, every thread of dialogue. Jason's focus on the human potential, the full potential of our people, is the foundation of the direction that he is driving us.
So given that, again, this is not an easy thing to pull off. This is an exemplary kind of effort, the right one, I happen to believe. Now, what are the points of tension between the human piece and the performance piece? Where are the tough spots there?
Sitting in the boardroom and sitting at the management team table, there has been absolutely no shift in the commitment to the development of human skills. Every CEO of every one of our businesses, anytime we talk about growth and development, reinforces the importance of doing both things. As businesses experience slowing or variable markets, one of the first things that we do is our capital investments. Where are we investing in either services, in delivery of those services to our clients, or other types of investments? The thing that I love about this, though, is if the firm comes back to me and says, Anthony, look, you may find yourself in a more constrained capital environment over the next few years because the market is variable. What an amazing challenge for me and the rest of the learning organization to innovate at a faster rate? The answer isn't we're going to do less. No, the answer is how do we use AI and other tech to continue to meet the expectation of our stakeholders?
It's taking this yes and philosophy and even applying it to the disruptive changes.
If you think about what's happening in society, the geopolitical environment, all of these things, what I am developing a deeper appreciation for is it's a really big responsibility to sit at the heart of the growth and development of 173,000 people that all have very unique experiences and experience anything that's happening in the broader world very, very differently for very, very different reasons. And one of the things that I've learned just in 10 months in the role is how important it is for everybody to understand how people are receiving different things. So we're really doubling down on what does representation look like? When we have characters and learnings and stories, what does that really mean? Do we all, as leaders, have an understanding of how those things are portrayed and, more importantly, perceived? So one of the things that we're really focused on over the last few months is increasing our understanding of different people's experiences and whether or not our learning is moving in a positive direction versus some of what we may have created over the last 5 years or 10 years may be less helpful and a little hurtful. So for me, we are not allowing ourselves to ignore the reality of understanding. We are challenging ourselves to increase our understanding so the learnings we create demonstrate greater representation and understanding.
I would imagine that this kind of rapidity of change, move to greater inclusion, move to greater representation, being very thoughtful about how you message things, isn't for everyone. Have you noticed an outflow of people that just say, this, peace out, this isn't for me?
I can't say I have. I would say that what I witness on a daily basis from the most senior people in the firm is a commitment to growing our own understanding, to be better leaders every day, and to really continue to make sure that Deloitte in particular remains truly differentiated from our peers.
Organizations have huge demands on their performance. Deloitte's been a high-performing organization forever. Yet new people are coming into the workforce. This is a new way of being, a new culture, new skills being required, a lot more rapid cycle learning. What are the aligning mechanisms now that the organization uses to make sure that people are aligned to values? How do you do that? Is it part of selection? Is it part of onboarding? Is it how do you align to values? How do you align to goals? How do you align to purpose? Give me some tips here.
I love Brene Brown's clear is kind, unclear is unkind. Like, it's the consistency and clarity of which we communicate these things and how we embed them through the different life cycle experiences that our people will go through. But it's also demonstrating the capacity to evolve, Foster. And I think that that's one of the things that the firm does exceptionally well. We didn't have very clear sustainability goals, 10 years ago, but our sustainability goals are very clear, and it's something we educate our people on. We give our people agency to be able to learn and develop skills and participate. So I think it's a consistency, it's a clarity, it's an embedded in every aspect of the life cycle, and it's a demonstration of an ability to evolve.
Is it safe to say that some of that stuff is embedded in your learning curriculum as well?
Oh, 100%.
So, Anthony, as a voracious reader yourself, what's most inspiring you these days? What are you reading? What are you listening to?
Chris Voss, former world-renowned hostage negotiator, one of the founders of the Black Swan Group. He wrote the book, Never Split the Difference. 3 years ago, I listened to his masterclass, and I thought it was a masterclass on like business and negotiation. Foster, there is no set of skills that I apply on a daily basis more than the skills I learned in that class. And what it basically translates to me for me is the adversary is the situation. It is not the people involved. To move into situations, to move into not knowings, to move into this idea that the people on the other side of the table, or the many people involved in a situation, all are good, caring, compassionate people that want a similar outcome. How do you work your way through? So this idea that people aren't the adversary, it's the situation, has been game-changing for me. The next is Cornel West, American philosopher. He started to describe that what we are experiencing in this moment is an identity crisis. And what he described is that there are three components to identity: protection, association, and recognition. But what I've realized is, in every difficult situation that I've dealt with an individual, what I've recognized with that frame is they are experiencing an identity crisis because one of those three dimensions is off. They feel unsafe, or they no longer feel connected, or they no longer feel appreciated or respected for what they do. And that mindset for me, when I can engage with people, either on an individual basis or how we create learning, and to recognize that each individual has an identity and how we lean into that identity to raise the watermark of all three of those things, that was game-changing for me. The last I'll leave you with is the book that I read recently, which is Adam Grant's Hidden Potential. And there's two things that really stood out for me in that book. The first is his belief that we are embarking on a character revolution. It doesn't matter how fast technology changes and the advantages that we will have with tech, we will always have humans. And where does character and values play as it relates to tech? And how often do our values get prioritized over our gut instinct or over difficulty? And so this idea of character, something we've talked about ages ago, decades ago, character being the underlying force that could be the most pivotal thing of our future, and really quite leaning into that as an important part of how we develop each other, that was pretty inspiring for me.
And clearly you are a believer in the future. Your passion and optimism show through.
I am. Look, I mean, for me, it's like growth is at the heart of the human experience. We will have humans. We will continue to exist. So I'm not intimidated by the pace of change. I'm not intimidated by things constantly being difficult or complex. I'm inspired by our humanity. I'm inspired by the predominant volume of people that want to grow, that want to be better. How could we not be inspired by that?
Anthony, I can't tell you how much I appreciate this. This has been incredibly helpful, incredibly educational, and to hear, and congratulations on all that I'm hearing about the great progress you have made, the firm has made, and things that are planned for the future. I appreciate you. I appreciate all that you've done for the firm that even as an outsider, I care so much about. For a deeper exploration of your own journey, you can find tools, stories, and reflection questions in my book, Leadership, Rethinking the True Path to Great Leading, or by following me on social media. I'm on LinkedIn and Instagram as Foster Mobley. Until next time, Stepwise.
Thank you for listening to Stepwise. Stepwise is brought to you by Dr. Foster Mobley. Edited and promoted by Zetis. You can listen to more episodes wherever you stream podcasts. Find out more at fostermobleymt.com or follow us on social media at Foster Mobley. That's FOSTERMOBLEY. We look forward to having an inspiring conversation with you soon.